review of Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wade Take the Mic.
Welcome to another edition of Review of Raw. I'm John Pollock, joined as always by Wei Ting, where we are going to go through Monday's edition of Raw from Birmingham, Alabama. Wei, how are we possibly going to fill an entire show discussing this episode of Raw?
What do you mean?
What happened on Raw?
Well, a lot happened. If we really dug in to the minute
actually,
detail.
190 minutes did happen. You're right. We'll be analyzing quantity versus quality.
We have been doing, for people who aren't aware, we've been doing the 3-minute condensed versions of these reviews, which you can find on various sources associated with us. And I have no doubt that we'd be able to cover this entire show in 3 minutes. So if you want to save yourself some time, watch that.
This will be the challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get into it. This was one of Brock Lesnar's big dates.
Yeah.
Do you know Brock's doing including this show, he's doing 3 Raws in the month of February. He's on next week's show, then he skips the Go Home Raw, and then he's there the night after Fast Lane.
Why would he skip the Go Home Raw? Why would you book him? I suppose you want to spread out all the appearances, but
I am with you. I would skip next week.
Yeah.
They clearly had nothing. Tonight was actually not. You can look at different guys not having a whole lot. Brock's is kind of extenuating circumstances because I have no doubt that he was tied to something with Brie tonight, who was unavailable with his father being very ill. That's why him and Bo Dallas were not there. But there were other people on this show, and like Chris Jericho comes to mind. I don't know why he was flown into Birmingham tonight, but lots to discuss. I came back to the point. I think Brock, if you had skipped next week and put him on the Go Home show, that would seem to be make more sense.
Yeah, I think so.
And the night after Fastlane, I mean, that should kick off everything for WrestleMania coming out of Fastlane. But it did start with Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman coming out to begin the program. There was a big Suplex City chant, and this Birmingham, Alabama crowd, I wrote down, I was like, really good crowd. And by about 40 minutes into this show, I think they had kind of settled in and were just kind of going to take in the wrestling for the rest of the night. Heyman goes over the Wyatt conspiracy that they concocted to eliminate Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble, and Heyman says that it failed. Which, as we analyze this, if that was the conspiracy, where the objective was to eliminate Brock Lesnar from the Royal Rumble, it completely worked.
Oh, they totally succeeded.
It was anything but a failure. It was a huge success.
From the Rumble, yes.
He's gone.
I suppose he probably should have said title picture to eliminate him from the title picture.
Well, he's not even out of that.
Well, yeah,
that
that's what
part
I mean. I'm saying Heyman
has
should
failed.
have said that.
Yes, because Brock, by not showing up last week, did enough to impress Stephanie and Triple H and get into the triple threat, which was the whole show-long storyline last week. They state that Lesnar's revenge towards the Wyatts is coming, but would not be coming tonight, and turns their focus to Fastlane and the 3-way main event. Heyman says that Lesnar's going to F5 his way to the main event of WrestleMania and then take out the billion-dollar trophy husband, Triple H, and Brock Lesnar will become the champion.
The trophy husband.
The
Wow.
trophy husband.
Oh, boy.
There's a T-shirt coming out. They're going to steal your Putski design.
Nice.
Paul Heyman then starts running down Dean Ambrose, who comes out and interrupts, calling Paul Heyman Porky. He says he wants the title. He knows he's going to take a beating at Fastlane and asks Brock to take him to Suplex City and states that he is the Iron Man of the WWE, as Brock is just laughing off all of these, not even threats, more like understandings on Ambrose's behalf that he's going to get destroyed in this 3-way.
Very likely. I thought Dean showed a lot of confidence here, standing next to Brock. I think I think he's been ready for a long time, but I think to see him alone in there with Brock, I could totally see a potential matchup solo between the two. I would even go as far to say that I'm actually more excited for a potential Dean Ambrose Brock Lesnar bout than I would be for another Brock and Roman Reigns bout right now.
They announced a new match for Fastlane. We're going to get Kalisto and Alberto Del Rio.
Oh boy!
For the United States title.
Number 6, number 5.
We're getting up there. Alberto was ringside to join the commentary team for Kalisto and Rusev in a non-title match, which did feature Lana coming out with Rusev. And Kalisto is running around as Rusev chases after him and attacks him with some kicks. Rusev then caught a Hurricane Rana attempt as Kalisto landed on his feet. And Cole is asking him what happened when Del Rio lost to Kalisto. And Del Rio just shrugs off the loss, saying, I got cocky, and then I got cocky again. Almost in his head remembering, there's a plural on this.
I lost
the term
twice.
loss.
Yeah.
And says it will be a different story at Fast Lane.
Yeah, during that little exchange, you could definitely tell that even Del Rio himself was probably finding it tough to keep track of how many times they've fought, how many times he's actually lost to this guy.
He's had my number a few times.
Yeah. But, that said, I actually enjoyed Del Rio on commentary here. Usually he seems to be the type of guy who is a little lost without a script, and we know when they're on the commentary, they're not all they're kind of told to improvise a bit more, and I felt like he did that in a cocky and more convincing manner this time.
Even got into his trunks for this special assignment.
He might have been on Superstars or something. Probably.
So he hasn't showered this whole time. Kalisto went for a Pescado and got kicked in midair by Rusev on the floor. They went through a break. Kalisto then hit a tornado DDT, described as a flippy-floppy thing by JBL, our analyst. Rusev then runs shoulder first into the post as a schoolboy for a 2 count. They go to the floor, and Kalisto lands on the desk and hits this Hurricane Rana to Rusev off the desk, sending Rusev very cartoonish into the barricade, where this was very much assisted by Rusev himself and not the Earth's momentum sending him into the barricade. And then Kalisto just ran in the old WCW NWO World Tour cheap victory way, I like to call it.
Yeah.
When you just want to screw with your friend that you're playing with, and you're at 9, and you hit him with the wood, and he falls down, and you just race and get the count-out win. That was our babyface victory for Kalisto, who got the count-out victory over Rusev.
Well, they're clearly on board with pushing Kalisto, but evidently not enough to give him a clean win over somebody like a Rusev. And, if he was paired with anybody but Rusev, who I see a lot of upside to, and I wouldn't necessarily want to see lose all the time, I think I'd be more upset. But I do hope that they give Kalisto some actual convincing wins against larger opponents like Rusev in the weeks ahead.
Each week on Review of Raw, pay attention for the secret question. You can tweet the answer at Law Radio every week for your chance to win a t-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees. Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose were, I assume, summoned to Stephanie's office, where Stephanie walked in, and the WWE title was just there in this case on a table.
I think Triple H is not going to carry the title around. I suppose it's part of the gimmick to show that he's a corporate champion, so he doesn't carry around the belt. Instead, he puts it in a case.
Maybe he'll carry it in a briefcase to and from the ring.
Maybe he'll carry it in the frame to the ring.
Perhaps he'll keep it framed.
Yeah.
So Stephanie walks in, and they start joking about the Royal Rumble. I've got to say, Roman Reigns, he has a great sense of humor about losing his title. He seems to be, yeah, you beat me. And then Stephanie is trying to rile these two up and say it's inevitable that one of you is going to turn on the other, and brings up Marty Jannetty not seeing it coming when Shawn Michaels turned on him.
And how did Marty Jannetty respond?
By being a fool online. Then she brought up Randy Orton being turned on by Evolution, and then Seth Rollins turning on them in 2014, and asks how long Dean is going to want to be known as Reigns' sidekick. And Dean says that Reigns is his sidekick, and it leads to a tag match being set up between Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose against The New Day for later tonight.
I thought while seeing this that Hunter might have not been backstage or something, but he showed up later on. So I'm guessing the idea is just to keep Triple H apart from Reigns as long as they can. And
I've got to say, you bring up a great point that we knew Hunter was there, and Roman Reigns is not. He hasn't been booked to be upset at all about the fact he lost this title.
Yeah. Well, he was kind of upset last week, wasn't he?
He arrived.
Yeah.
But there was no confrontation with Triple H, nor was there this week. It's just he's kind of moved on. It's
Well, I don't think they necessarily booked their baby faces to be that angry. I mean, you see it with John Cena. Instead, they're more like baby faces who just kind of shake it off and just look towards accomplishing their goal again. Whether or not that works, I don't know. The other question is, can Roman Reigns pull off pissed off? Is he a good enough actor to be able to pull that off?
I bet you WrestleMania weekend last year he played pissed off very well.
Backstage, maybe.
I'm just looking at it from the point of view, if you're a Roman Reigns fan, what is your motivation to want to see this guy win this title back? He's not upset about it. It's just because I'd love to see it. I've seen him with the title.
Yeah.
I know he'll get it at some point, but there was no grave injustice at the Royal Rumble. There's no real anger on Roman Reigns' part. He's just going to go back and he'll have this three-way. Just seems that all this thought went into the Royal Rumble of getting this title on Triple H. Mm-hmm. And what's the outcome? What is the anger? What is the build for this WrestleMania main event so far?
He's already a 2-time champion, but he hasn't had an extended ownership of the title. It's the same thing that they did with Daniel Bryan, and
it's like a Toronto team not winning 12 games in a row.
Yes, there you go. I think, if we weren't in the era that we were in, where we had so many pay-per-views, so many TV shows, obviously I would like if they had kept Reigns from touching the title at all until WrestleMania. But with as many shows as they've had to book, they've had to hotshot the title a number of times and take it back. So I think it's more of a problem with the current dynamic that they have to book these shows in, and they're trying to set up that big moment of Reigns winning at WrestleMania. And from judging the crowd tonight, I don't know if it'll be that big of a moment.
They provided an update on Nikki Bella, who did undergo her surgery last week. They said it went as best as could possibly be expected. So that's good news. She has to stay home for 3 months of doing, I think she's in a neck collar for 3 months. So it's going to be a long recovery process. And then Renee was with Brie, who said that the doctors are optimistic she will return, and she's at home watching the WWE Network. There were some painful WWE Network plugs on this show. This would be the most painful one, to have to work into a promo. As a woman is recovering from a near career-ending surgery, and she is at home watching the WWE Network, excited about her new episode of Ride Along.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
I haven't seen that yet, have you?
Nope, I have not. Charlotte and Ric Flair walk in, and Charlotte says the surgery may in fact have been her fault after the matches the two had, but she will not apologize, as she's on her way to becoming the longest reigning Divas champion to replace the record set by Nikki Bella.
I like Charlotte here in this little segment. She's doing that slow, menacing delivery that worked so well for Chris Jericho at one time. And it definitely seems like she's having a lot more fun being a heel than a babyface.
What do you think of Ric Flair's promo?
What did he say, woo?
No, he didn't even say that.
What did he say?
Nothing. He said nothing here. He just stood there.
He's the accessory.
It's amazing. Jerry Lawler was on Mauro Ranallo and Boss Rutan's podcast last week, and they started talking about promos. And Jerry was just like, he's a guy that's obviously, he's not going to say anything too negative, but when it got to promos, he was like, oh, it's crazy. I'm backstage and I'm watching Ric Flair walking around with a script memorizing lines.
Whoa.
And he's like, it's just like ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It kind of is. Though I feel like we can't get too mad at Flair not really doing that much in these segments, because you can probably assume that he wouldn't want to overshadow his daughter.
No, it's true. But you're also looking at a guy who, I mean, his value is his mouth. And that is something that just week after week, you're never going to have a big Ric Flair promo.
No.
They're never going to.
When was the last great Ric Flair promo, though?
Oh, you'd have to go back to TNA, I bet. I don't think he's had one, what I would call a tremendous promo since he's come back to WWE. It would have to be TNA. Log on to FightNetwork.com daily for podcasts from Live Audio Wrestling covering the entire industry on a daily basis. The Usos were out, and Lilian Garcia introduced them as the Grammy Award-winning tag team, the Usos.
Oh, she did.
You might have missed this way. So that's why after the commercial break, the announcers and the production team decided to replay this. They would then go on later in the night to highlight tweets of fans making fun of Lilian Garcia and JBL constantly working in Grammy mentions throughout the night. You know, I heard this. I was like, that's really funny that she screwed up. I felt bad for even thinking that by the end of the night because I felt like I was just as much of a jerk as this WWE was here. This is just so mean.
Just the hazing.
So mean-spirited.
Yeah.
This poor woman.
Funny. Yeah. It's, you know, they love to kind of tease their employees. We know.
So we have Slater, Rose, and Axel come out and state that they are family. And Axel says the tightest group of good brothers in the WWE, which might be our first subtle tease to Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows coming in. The Good Brothers.
No.
So clearly priming them up for a massive feud with the social
brothers.
outcasts. And then they're looking where Bo is, and Bo is off somewhere, they state, and had mentioned he would not be here this week. Obviously, he was with Brie back being sent home.
They said Bo Ryder was in the studio recording.
I guarantee you that Bo Dallas is going to be given a rap gimmick now.
You know,
after last week,
this was exactly how John Cena became John Cena. So he needs something, and this scene definitely caught on.
This is something Bo can definitely run with.
Yeah.
So, and a great tie-in when he goes to the home of WrestleMania, Bo Dallas.
Oh, wow. I guess.
Lots of great ideas there.
He could, yeah.
This match went 5.5 minutes, and it ended with Jay splashing off the top and pinning one of them.
There's just very long rest holds in this match, and the match wasn't that long, was it?
5:11.
Okay, so I don't really understand why, you know, in the middle of this very, very brief match, you had Adam Rose putting Jey Uso in a headlock for like a large portion of it. It just wasn't a very good match, in my opinion.
Then we got a plug for the new edition of American Way magazine, which will be available on certain flights for people to read, and it's all about WrestleMania 32 coming up with John Cena, the Bellas, and Mark Henry on the front cover. A perfect representation of what to expect at WrestleMania this coming April.
None of them will be there.
Probably not. You'll get Brie and maybe Mark Henry. Brie will probably not have a match on this show.
Yeah, I don't know if you get Brie.
Mark Henry will be in the Battle Royal.
Yeah.
That will be it. Miz TV is our next segment with Miz in the ring and starts talking about AJ Styles, who came in with his Pitbull bravado.
Is that what they said?
His Pitbull bravado. Now,
Pitbull bravado.
Pitbull. Now, when Chris Jericho was interviewed later, he too referred to AJ Styles as a Pitbull. So that tells me that is the nickname he is going to be given.
The Pitbull.
The Pitbull.
Is it because he's tiny? Like,
Pitbulls are not all that tiny.
They're like smaller dogs.
They need to be muzzled. So maybe that's a knock at his promo style.
Okay. Interesting. I just don't picture a Pitbull. Pitbulls don't do Pele kicks and, you know, they don't fly in the air. Why a Pitbull?
Maybe he can come out to
Pitbull, the rapper.
Pitbull the rapper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe some tie-in with LL Cool J. He can come out to Phenomenon.
Yes.
All the ladies love AJ.
Okay, LL Cool AJ, yes.
So,
the Pitbull AJ Styles.
Listen, they used it. Two separate guys were given that term to describe AJ Styles, so that was not a coincidence. The Pitbull.
Okay, it could be worse. He could be like the llama,
the Chihuahua.
Yeah, sure. I don't know.
He's captured the imagination of the fans, Miz says, and says this Miz TV is a forum for storytelling. Styles then is introduced, and Miz does the gimmick of constantly yanking the microphone away so AJ cannot speak. Miz then says how critics have said that he doesn't have the it factor. He was too small to make his high school football team, but then he overcame the odds and became the best guy on his team. And then he went on to wrestle in places like Tallahassee and Timbuktu. And the WWE was his white whale, and somehow he made it into the Royal Rumble. and reminds him a lot of his former protege, Daniel Bryan, another indie darling, and says he helped Bryan, and many would call him the father of the Yes Movement, and he wants to mentor AJ Styles. And Miz says that the E in WWE is just as important as the W, and says he was a big fish in a small pond that drew 26,000 paid at the Tokyo Dome, and will drown in a sea of sharks if he listens to the fans, and says he has no chance in hell if he doesn't listen to him. And then Styles just attacks him, sends him out of the ring, and Miz runs off to the back.
I'll say that The Miz was very good at playing his role.
I thought Miz was very good.
He was very good. And I thought AJ's physical comeback was very aggressive, and it needed to be, because overall, I'm not really sure if this segment really helped his image. They basically, I thought, colored him as just another small guy without personality in a segment like this.
I never like when they call attention to that, whether it's a heel or not. And it's
what's the Paul Heyman saying? You always accentuate the traits and try to hide the negatives. And they were trying to bring to light the fact that this is a small guy. He can't talk, so we're not going to let him talk.
Yeah, his first major program is going to give you the indication of where they see this guy at. The Miz is not a program. It's going to be
a SmackDown match.
Exactly, as was Axel last week. I don't think people should be up in arms that he's wrestling Curtis Axel, but I don't see him being, at an Ambrose level immediately. I mean, this guy is really going to have to work to get himself over to people in this company.
Why, though? He is already over. Like, to the people backstage, you're saying?
Yes.
Yes. But to the audience, he's already at that level.
To a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, this is someone that has been over for the majority of the last 14 years.
And you could even argue that at this point, when he's still fresh, when he's still got that mystique about him, it's when you can justifiably put him against a Dean Ambrose or a Kevin Owens right away.
Tune in to Review Away this Wednesday as Wei Ting and I will be reviewing the Resurrection of Jake the Snake documentary, which is out now on iTunes, and we'll be welcoming Diamond Dallas Page for an exclusive interview discussing the documentary and the recovery of Jake Roberts. It's this Wednesday on Review Away at liveaudiowrestling.com. They showed Deontay Wilder in the crowd, the WBC heavyweight champion, who was interviewed backstage earlier in the day by Mauro Ranallo. And then we had Charlotte against Brie Bella, non-title match, with Charlotte picking up the Mark Hominick gimmick of doing push-ups. This was at the start of the match, though, not the end. The end would make her look more heelish, I think. And then she applied a figure four head scissors, slamming Brie's head into the mat. Brie comes back with clotheslines, bulldog, running knee to the chest. And then she applies this sleeper, and Rick gets onto the apron. And Alicia comes over and is yelling at Rick to get off. And at one point, Rick goes to try and kick Alicia. Charlotte breaks out with a jawbreaker and then goes for the figure eight, and Brie counters it with an inside cradle and pins Charlotte at 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The women's programs we saw on this show were so weird because it was as if last week in the Rumble didn't happen. It was as if you got to look into the future, that this is the program we're going to go with Charlotte and Sasha. But this week, it was like that never happened. She's got this program with Brie now. And Sasha's got a program with Becky against her former team.
Perhaps it's a case of them wanting to showcase the ultimate feuds, on the shows with the most eyeballs, and then perhaps cooling it off when they know that people are kind of tuning out and won't tune back in until Mania, is the build up to Mania.
It just felt abrupt that you did. I would have been fine with just simply Sasha walking out at the Rumble and pointing to the title, and you've subtly hinted at it. But last week on Raw, we got Charlotte running in and attacking these women. And this week, it was as if they were in two different worlds. They were completely separate. No reference to the other. No one wanting payback. It was just, we're moving to different programs. It was just weird.
I feel like it's probably because they just have so much TV time to fill, and they, this Brie Bella Charlotte thing. I see what they're trying to do. Nikki is hurt, and I guess Brie, gets sympathy points, and with Total Divas on, she seems to be a good placeholder.
Brie has to be paired with Big Show just for the comedy of it.
Why?
Because of the turns. They're insane. She is catching up to Big Show.
Yeah. But something, about the way they booked this just didn't really sit right because, yes, I know that they like to pin their champions to lead towards title matches, but I just don't think Charlotte is established enough as a champion yet to suffer a clean loss like this. And to Brie, of all people, who is just, I'm sorry, but like in ring, she's just not good. And I think audiences can definitely see through that. So, in my opinion, I feel like Natalya would have been a much better candidate for this spot. She's just as big of a part of Total Divas, and I think if you're going to build up to like a match at Fast Lane with Charlotte, to give Charlotte a good, strong win, I think Natalya would have been a much better candidate for that.
Well, knowing their track record with getting heat on Charlotte programs and given the news of today, I'm very glad they did not put Natalya with Charlotte. Mm-hmm. And that is where they showed the statement released by Bret Hart from today and showing tweets that Triple H, Reigns, Jerry Lawler, and Natalya sent out earlier in the day. Big Show against Eric Rowan. Brought to you by the pin that I heard drop in the crowd during this match. Big Show hit a vertical suplex, knocked Harper off the apron, and then chokeslammed Eric Rowan and pinned him clean in a minute 20. Then Braun Strowman entered the ring, attacked Show. Harper and Rowan would join in. Rowan went for this spin kick that did not come close to hitting Big Show. He just took this bump before this leg even came near him. And then they beat down Big Show, sent him into the steps, and it ended with this double team slam of Big Show onto the steps. My only question here, why did Big Show win this match?
He needs to look strong for whatever program they have set for him.
I hate this thinking where this whole segment was designed to make the Wyatts look strong, but we don't want them to look so strong. Big Show is not a priority here. He doesn't even have a program.
And also keep in mind,
the Wyatts are being focused on.
Right.
They're in a big program.
But also keep in mind, Brie was probably supposed to be a part of this too, and they probably had to rewrite this as well.
I don't see why these three couldn't have taken out Big Show.
The thing is, though, they want to make the Wyatts look strong, but Eric Rowan always seems to be that fall guy. They're not really concerned of keep protecting him. He's just kind of another body, and I'm guessing they want to try to build Braun Strowman for an eventual confrontation with the Big Show.
Then we had Titus O'Neil against Tyler Breeze. This was a thin lineup on Raw.
Why did they break him and Summer up?
They announced on the final SmackDown that their New Year's resolution was to move on.
And what is Summer doing?
Nothing. It's winter now. Breeze got an insert promo. He got way more than he's gotten in most weeks. I mean, he got to talk here and he got his entrance, saying that Titus is an Uggo who looks better with his football helmet on. And Titus hit a running avalanche in the corner. Breeze did work over the left knee, including a half crab that he applied. And then Titus got up and hit a clothesline, and the clash of the Titus, his knee regenerated, and he won in 2:39.
Yeah, I mean, Titus continues to do a lot of PR work for the company, and I guess thus, giving him.
He was rewarded with a win.
Yeah, doing a lot of PR work, but yet to have any real storyline, compelling storyline. I don't really count that Stardust stuff as any type of real storyline. Titus O'Neil just seems to be the guy that you air the video package before his match, and then you get to see him wrestle and get a victory, which I think is fine. But I think you have a guy here that you can really take advantage of by actually giving him a nice little feud and a good storyline to get behind. Tyler Breeze, he's destined for superstars. What is it, like a month in now? Into his main roster?
Oh, he's on Superstars. He is right near the social outcast is above him. Clearly.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. It just doesn't seem like his character is really compelling or developed enough at this point for Raw. It just seems very generic and boring for 2015. And when you look at, in the past, characters that have done that kind of vain, I love myself gimmick, you can even... I think the narcissist Lex Luger is probably, had more depth. Certainly somebody like dashing Cody Rhodes seemed to be able to pull out that same character, but with more layers to it than Tyler Breeze. So I definitely think he's a guy who needs some retooling and freshening up. Perhaps even a tag team for him.
With Cody.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Stardust is doing a thing at this point.
But Cody loves doing Stardust.
Well, you know what? it's not working. I mean, what more can you possibly look at? Does he want to? I get it. It's sentimental to him, this character, but this is like undercard, just nothing. And it's been like that since the day he turned into that character. Sunday night on The Law, live audio wrestling. Tune in at 11 p.m. Eastern Time as Jason Agnew and Dan Lebransky run through the entire week in pro wrestling and MMA, and we're going to be joined by Teddy Long for an extensive chat, plus Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter and more. Sunday night, 11 Eastern. Listen live at liveaudiowrestling.com. Lesnar is in the locker room with Paul Heyman. Triple H walks in and wants a minute with Lesnar. Asks if Lesnar's getting soft after he let Dean Ambrose talk to him like that in the opening segment. And Lesnar says, well, we'll see at WrestleMania. Okay, yeah. Thanks for showing up, Hunter. That was our world champion's involvement on a 3-hour and 10-minute edition of Raw. Was 2 minutes.
Right. Maybe, perhaps it's by design, you know. Do you think that they could actually do Brock versus Triple H?
No. I don't see that rematch.
Do you think, though, that match is more compelling than Brock versus, Triple H versus Roman Reigns? And then perhaps they could do Dean versus Roman at Mania. What's a bigger match right now?
Doing Roman against Dean
doing Roman versus Dean and Brock versus Hunter, or Hunter versus Reigns and Brock versus somebody else.
I just think it's too late to be able to change that. I mean, the story has been Hunter and Roman to this point, and I just don't think you can change it at this point. And I mean, it would require a title change, and providing you're going that way, unless you're saying Lesnar wins this match and faces Hunter for the title at WrestleMania. Okay, and then you just do the two losers. I mean, yeah, you could do it, but I just think you've invested all this into Roman and Hunter. I'm not that against Roman and Hunter.
No, I'm not either.
I'm fine with that.
I'm just trying to think which one is the better marquee matchup.
I think you're looking at this point. I mean, realistically, I don't think either way you go, you're selling any less tickets. Mm-hmm. Anyone less is watching this show. I mean, it's very different. It's not as if this is kind of a pay-per-view where it's your card is going to fluctuate buys. It's very much, I think people are just, it's WrestleMania. They're going to watch it. Hunter and Roman has been your story that you've been doing since November. But
they must be panicking, though, at some of these reactions that Roman Reigns is getting as a babyface.
I mean, what was tonight? I mean,
he got booed tonight for that hot tag.
I don't think it was really all that noticeable, to be honest. I mean, there's some cities that it's going to be like that, but for the most part, I think you had the Rumble, but I think a lot of it it's nothing like it was a year ago.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's good enough for WrestleMania, though, in that lead babyface spot.
I mean, that's the program they're going ahead with. I'm more concerned about Brock and Brie. I just don't sense any momentum, so I hope they have a tremendous idea for another angle, because the beatdown on Raw didn't lead to anything. The Rumble, to me, didn't build that up anything more. So I hope they have a creative way to get him out of the Fast Lane main event and whatever they have planned afterwards. After that, we went to, they announced AJ and Miz for SmackDown this week, and they'll also be doing Roman Reigns against Rusev. And that took us to Dolph Ziggler against Kevin Owens. Ziggler immediately went for the super kick. Owens just bailed to the floor. They went through a commercial break, and Owens was in control, mocking Ziggler, stomping him, cross-faced him with the forearm. Then Owens missed with a running senton, and then ran shoulder first into the post. These shoulder injuries, here's the culprit. All these guys running into that post. They do this all the time. Ziggler makes his comeback. Owens goes to the floor, and Ziggler hits the Famouser, with Michael Cole saying that is how this feud has escalated, to the point where Ziggler is willing to hit the Famouser on the floor.
Oh.
God, blood.
Ass to floor.
Owens blocks the zigzag and super kicks Ziggler for a near fall, and then hits Ziggler with a cannonball while Ziggler's in the Tree of Woe, goes for the pop-up powerbomb. Ziggler blocks it, and Ziggler hits the zigzag and pins Kevin Owens. And I don't have any knowledge to this, but this result tells me Owens is not facing The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Definitely told me that too. In fact, I
I shut the door on that option with this finish.
He might just be facing Dolph Ziggler, or he might even just be in the the Andre Battle Royal.
That's the thing. If Owens is not getting the Taker match, it's such a steep drop to where he's going to be thrown into something that I don't feel will have much substance.
He won't be in the Andre Battle Royal. I really don't think he will be. But to lose to Dolph, I mean, kind of puts you at a pretty low level, in my opinion. Dolph is hardly high on the spot on the card right now. Nonetheless, the match was very good. Did you mention that bump into the corner that Dolph took with the whiplash effect on his neck?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Oh, my God. Yeah. They replayed that multiple times, and it looked like scary for Dolph. Just his head whipping back as he went chest first into the thing. So I continue to worry about this guy.
He has a death wish.
He goes so hard, like when oh man. Anyway, yeah. So, but the match was very good tonight.
Also worth noting, the fact that Alberto Del Rio is announced for Fast Lane, they have to be optimistic that his back issues are okay because he didn't work any of the house shows over the weekend. Sheamus was not seen at all. He's dealing with tendonitis. So those are the latest injuries that they're dealing with. But, of course, no Del Rio, at least on Raw. I don't know if he worked. Probably didn't work prior to Raw on the tapings. They did a Black History Month feature on Mark Henry, going from the world's smallest town to become the world's strongest man. And they showed his induction into the International Sports Hall of Fame, so we got a Randy Couture cameo on Raw.
Oh, I didn't
He was there in the same class being inducted. Cool. Unfortunately, this was a nice video. No salmon jacket showing. How do you do a Mark Henry tribute with? And they used a portion of that promo, but didn't show the jacket.
One of his best moments.
Oh, his best moment.
Yes. A nice little video here. I feel like we get these once a year with during Black History Month. Profile of other African American superstars, but this one might be his last because they seem to be strongly hinting that this might be his last year. Mark Henry.
Yeah, they're also doing the Legends with JBL interview with Ron Simmons, and they put this teaser clip up where JBL's asking him about becoming the first Black World Champion from '92, which isn't true, but it's just to me.
Well, that's how history remembers.
Yeah, that's how the WWE history is. Yeah. But to me, it's like, do you really want to be promoting that? Like the first Black champion happened in the '90s.
I mean,
is that like a real pat ourselves on the back moment?
No,
and again, I mean, it's like I don't even look at it.
It's they're not patting themselves on the back. It's not even their company that did it. In fact, if you look at the WWE, it's even later. But nonetheless, it's an accomplishment for that person. I don't know. I don't think it necessarily. It might reflect bad on pro wrestling, but '92 is like there are a lot. I feel like there are a lot of things. I mean, we haven't had a black president of the United States until recently.
You can keep the conversation going 24 hours a day on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Law Radio, and you can also join the official Law message board at lawradio.proboards.com. Sasha Banks comes out and says that she is back and on her terms. She's not sitting back and watching other divas steal her spotlight, which is in fact what this entire show was. She is letting another diva take her spot against Charlotte and is stepping aside. That's what happened.
For this week, yeah.
Yes. And she's now on her own. She's going to become the Divas champion. Then Naomi and Tamina come out. They state they're veterans. They realize teams don't last forever. This was the most level-headed breakup of all time. And they came to simply congratulate Sasha and won't let this turn into Kanye and Wiz.
Did you follow all that?
Oh, of course.
Bootygate.
Did you see Amber Rose?
Of course.
Vouching for Goldust and R-Truth to become a tag team?
No.
She tweeted Goldust.
Wow.
And says she wants to see the two as a tag team.
I didn't know she was a wrestling fan.
I was stunned they didn't show that tweet on Raw.
I'm not. Oh, that one.
That one, not the other one.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, they state that tonight they're going to have Sasha's back against Becky Lynch.
I thought this was probably like the first time we've heard Sasha really cut a promo on her own inside the ring since she's been here, and I thought she sounded decent. She sounded good, actually. And you know what? I also thought Naomi sounded very good, too. So, It's kind of unfortunate that she's kind of had her whole thing derailed with the NXT divas in here, but she seems like she's improved too.
So they had a short match. Naomi goes to hit her, and Banks ends up stopping Naomi on the floor and says she doesn't need Tamina and Naomi. Banks and Naomi then shove each other, and then they pull Banks to the floor, causing the DQ at 3 minutes and 40 seconds. And then Becky comes to help Sasha, and there was a NXT chant, and it looks like some kind of tag program here with these two as a holdover for Banks and Becky. And then probably post Fast Lane, you'll get to likely Charlotte and Sasha, if not a three-way at WrestleMania.
I thought it was a good little moment and effective use of some loose ends here. The whole Team Bad thing, the whole faction thing with the Divas Revolution clearly didn't work at all. Like, Team Bad was just, they didn't do anything of note. But I thought here, kind of using the remnants of that to further Sasha's babyface turn and join up with Becky was a clever thing. It was some good development here for Sasha.
Then Renee interviewed Chris Jericho, who quoted Glenn Fry of the Eagles, who had just passed away, saying Styles is... everyone's talking about the new kid and says Styles is the real deal. He proved he's here for the long haul, and he's a pit bull. And says they are both fighters. He's going to be watching Styles versus Miz and taking that match very seriously on SmackDown. And that was Chris Jericho's involvement on Raw.
Not everybody can get a match on Raw, John.
On this show, this was our lineup tonight.
I know.
And we had no room for Chris Jericho on this show.
Yeah. Well, it does seem like they're teasing something further between Jericho and AJ. At least that's what I got from this. And I don't mind that. I feel
then why didn't we do the highlight reel with AJ tonight, if that is in fact the direction? I understand you want to get to Miz and Styles.
Because they didn't want to, because they needed a stop at Miz first before they can proceed to Jericho, perhaps at the pay-per-view.
This just seemed like such a... I don't know if they had to change Raw significantly, but it just felt there was nothing here planned for Jericho to even be here tonight. R-Truth is then backstage and walks into a bathroom where Goldust is standing on the toilet, steps into the toilet water, and presumably onto a turd. And it led to him once again asking R-Truth to be his partner. He brought up little Jimmy. R-Truth got upset. He called Goldust a weirdo, and then he left. Paul Heyman is on commentary for the main event. The New Day comes into the ring. They discuss Bootygate, which was The Rock's comments towards them and not the Kanye-Amber beef. And then they show a little kid in a Bullet Club t-shirt in the front row. Not by accident that they called attention to this.
You think so?
I don't. There's no way they are picking that out of nowhere. Right. And it just happens to be a father and son wearing those shirts. And the kid is trying to mimic Big E, and Kofi says how they will still fight that child. And then they talk about Ambrains.
Yeah. And then they also bring up... They bring up Ambrains, and then Wood says that's what the internet calls them in fan fiction. And Big E stopped them from getting more descriptive.
They probably can't go into any kind of detail on the USA Network.
They're probably referring to Slash.
Okay, we're going to run through this match really quickly, okay? It was Reigns was in, was beaten down, hot tag to Ambrose. Ambrose came in, was beat down for a long time, hot tag to Reigns. Then within the course of like 60 seconds, Reigns was selling and had to make a hot tag to Ambrose, who finally came in. They all fought on the floor. Woods got taken out by Reigns. Then Big E placed Reigns on the announce desk. Ambrose avoided the big ending. Reigns returned. Superman punched to Kofi. Ambrose hit the dirty deeds and pinned Big E. I don't know what the time of this match was, Way. If you told me 40 minutes, I would tell you you're probably right.
The match definitely felt long in this, by this point in the show, and I wouldn't say the match was good enough to really keep my attention. I probably would have enjoyed this more if it was earlier on in the 3 hours.
Brock came out, I agree with you, and the New Day jumps Reigns and Ambrose from behind. They all fight, and then Lesnar comes in, F5's Ambrose to close the show, and Reigns is laid out on the floor. And Brock Lesnar leaves in the wake of his carnage, leaving Dean Ambrose laying.
Yeah, I'll say, Raw was average for me. It didn't necessarily drag, but I also was watching, I was skipping all the commercials, and I finished this thing in 2 hours, so that might have helped. But I was a little disappointed at Brock's involvement here. He really didn't do a whole lot. But of course, there were
to him specifically, I'm sure they had some ideas with Bray.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of a loose way they had, the Wyatts beating down Big Show. You have this opening for Brock Lesnar, who is out for revenge, and nothing. I think that there's still more you could have done with the guy, even with Bray not there. Even the idea that Bray is gone and he leaves the other three here to take their beating. So I didn't think this was, all in all, a very good edition of Raw. That is going to wrap up our show, though. We are back on Wednesday with a new edition of Review Away, where we are reviewing the Resurrection of Jake the Snake documentary with special guest Diamond Dallas Page on the show Wednesday morning at liveaudiowrestling.com, and we'll speak with you next time on Review of Raw.